My Little Bible presents David and Goliath. Welcome, Little Bible Explorers! Today, we bring you an exciting story that will have you jumping out of your seats. Are you ready to meet a brave little shepherd who faced a terrifying giant? Well, buckle up, because we're going to ancient Israel. Over 3,000 years ago, in the hills of Bethlehem, lived a very special boy named David. He was the youngest of 8 brothers, and although small in stature, he had a huge heart and unwavering faith. While his older brothers were tall and strong, David was seemingly weak. But don't be fooled by appearances, friends. David spent his days caring for his father's sheep, but it wasn't a boring job. Oh no! Our little hero used this time to compose beautiful songs and play his harp, praising God while watching over his flock. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," David sang with his sweet voice, filling the air with melodies that made even the sheep raise their ears to listen. But David's life wasn't just music and sheep. Of course not. Our brave little shepherd had to protect his flock from very real dangers. Can you believe it? David, being so small, faced lions and bears to protect his sheep. When asked how he did it, David would answer with a smile. "With God's help, of course. He gives me the strength and courage to face any danger." One day, Jesse said to his son David, "Take this basket of cooked grain and these 10 loaves of bread to your brothers who are in the camp. Also, take these 10 pieces of cheese to the commander of the battalion of 1,000 soldiers, where your brothers are. Find out how your brothers are doing and bring me back proof that they are well." David, obedient, left the flock in the care of another shepherd and headed to the Israelite army camp, where his older brothers were serving as soldiers in the campaign against the Philistines. Arriving at the valley, David was speechless. Before his eyes stretched a sea of tents and soldiers. The army of Israel was camped there, prepared for battle against their enemies, the Philistines. The 2 armies were on opposite sides of the valley, ready to face each other, but something wasn't right. The Israelite soldiers, instead of looking brave and determined, seemed frightened. David approached a group of soldiers and asked them what was happening. With a trembling voice, one of them told him about Goliath, the champion of the Philistines. "He's a giant," said the soldier. "As tall as 3 men together and as strong as an ox. He's scarier than eating broccoli with chocolate." And just at that moment, as if he had been invoked, a thunderous voice was heard that made the ground shake. It was Goliath, the fearsome Philistine giant, coming out to challenge the army of Israel. "Cowardly Israelites!" Goliath shouted, with a voice that seemed to come from the depths of the earth. "Is there no one who dares to fight against the great Goliath? Choose your best warrior. If he defeats me, we Philistines will be your slaves. But if I win, you will be our slaves." David couldn't believe what he was seeing. Goliath was enormous. He was almost 3 meters tall, almost 10 feet, taller than a giraffe. He wore armor that weighed as much as 5 children together, and a spear as big as a telephone pole. His voice resonated throughout the valley, making the Israelite soldiers tremble with fear. But instead of being scared, David felt his heart fill with indignation. How dare this Philistine defy the army of the living God? Without hesitating for a second, David offered to fight against Goliath. The soldiers, upon hearing David, couldn't contain their laughter. "You!" they said, laughing. "But you're smaller than Goliath's big toe. Go back to your little sheep, shepherd boy." But David wasn't intimidated. With a firm voice, he declared, "Don't laugh! God is with me, and with his help, I will defeat that boastful giant." The soldiers, surprised by David's courage, took him before King Saul. The king, seeing the little David, couldn't hide his astonishment. "But you are just a boy!" he exclaimed. "Goliath has been a warrior since his youth, and you are a shepherd boy!" David, without losing his composure, told the king how he had protected his sheep from lions and bears, and assured him, said David, with a confidence that surprised everyone present, that this Philistine will be like one of them, because he is defying the army of the living God. King Saul, impressed by David's bravery and faith, finally agreed to let him fight, but insisted that David wear his own royal armor to protect himself. Imagine the scene, the little David almost disappearing under the weight of the enormous armor of the king, stumbling and staggering, unable to take a single step. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty," said David respectfully as he took off the heavy armor. "But I can't walk with this. I'm not used to it. I'll go as I am, with my sling and my faith in God." King Saul, worried, asked David how he would defend himself without armor. David's answer was simple but powerful. The Lord, who delivered me from the paws of the lion and the bear, will also deliver me from the power of this Philistine. And so, our brave David prepared to face the fearsome Goliath. But before going to the battlefield, he made a stop at the stream. There, he carefully chose 5 smooth stones. With God's help, David thought, one will be enough. With his sling, the 5 stones, and an unwavering faith, David headed to meet Goliath. The valley of Elah was full of people, the Israelites on one side, the Philistines on the other, and in the middle, our little hero David walking towards the giant. When Goliath saw David, he couldn't contain his laughter. "What is this?" he mocked with a voice that rumbled throughout the valley. "Do they send me a shepherd boy with a stick? Ha! Come here, little one, and I'll get rid of you." But David wasn't intimidated. With a clear and firm voice, he replied, "You come against me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied." Goliath, furious upon hearing these words, began to advance towards David. His steps made the earth tremble, and his armor shone under the desert sun. But David didn't back down. Instead, he ran quickly towards the battle line to face the Philistine. "This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands," said David as he ran. He reached into his bag and took out a stone, placed it in his sling, and began to spin it. Time seemed to stand still. Everyone present held their breath. David's sling spun faster and faster until, thwack! The stone shot out like a lightning bolt. It flew through the air, cutting through the wind, straight towards its target. And then, bam! The stone hit Goliath right in the forehead, the only place not protected by his armor. The impact was so strong that the giant staggered with a surprised look on his face. "What? What happened?" Goliath stammered, stunned. And like a great tree felled in the forest, the giant fell face down to the ground. David had defeated Goliath. For a moment, the valley was in complete silence. No one could believe what had just happened. But then, as if waking from a dream, the Israelites burst into shouts of joy. "David defeated Goliath!" the soldiers shouted, jumping and hugging each other. "David is our hero!" The Philistines, seeing their champion defeated, couldn't believe their eyes. Panic seized them, and forgetting all their previous bravery, they fled in terror. The Israelites, emboldened by David's victory, pursued their enemies, winning a great victory that day. In the midst of all the celebration, David remained humble. When asked how he had achieved such a feat, he simply replied, "It wasn't me. It was God who gave me the strength and courage to defeat Goliath." And so, friends, the little David proved that with faith, courage, and confidence in God, even the smallest can achieve great things. His victory over Goliath not only saved Israel that day, but became a story that would be told for generations, inspiring people of all ages to trust in God and to face their own giants with courage. But David's story doesn't end here. This brave little shepherd would grow up to become the greatest king Israel ever had. He composed beautiful psalms that we still read in the Bible today, and his lineage would reach Jesus, the Savior of the world. David's life teaches us many valuable lessons. It shows us that God does not look at outward appearance, but at the heart. It reminds us that with faith and trust in God, we can overcome obstacles that seem impossible. And it encourages us to use our talents and abilities, however small they may seem, to do great things for God and for others. Now, little adventurers, it's your turn. You may not have to face a giant in armor, but we all have our own Goliaths in life. They can be fears, challenges at school, or difficult situations at home. Remember David's lesson. No matter how big the problem, with God on your side, you can be brave and strong. So the next time you face something that seems too big or difficult, think of David. Remember how he trusted in God and used the skills he had, his sling and his courage, to do something extraordinary. You too have special skills. Maybe you are good at comforting a sad friend or helping a classmate with homework. Those talents, however small they may seem, can make a big difference in the world when you use them with faith and love. And don't forget, just as David practiced with his sling caring for sheep, you too can practice being brave in the little things of each day. Maybe it's raising your hand in class even if you're afraid of being wrong, or standing up for a friend when others are bothering them. Each small act of courage prepares you for the bigger challenges to come. Before we finish, we have some questions and missions for you. What did you like most about the story of David and Goliath? What did you learn? Have you ever had to face something that seemed very difficult? How did your faith in God help you? David used his shepherding skills to defeat Goliath. What special skills do you have that you could use to help others or do great things for God? This week, we challenge you to be brave like David. Do something that scares you a little, but that you know is right. It could be defending a friend, trying a new food, or speaking in public. Be brave! If you love this Bible adventure, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends. Help us get more children to know these incredible stories. And most importantly, remember that no matter if you are small or big, young or old, with God on your side, you can achieve amazing things. Trust in Him,